You know, so 587 BC, Jerusalem's destroyed, the Jews who are to be the people of God, they're to be the embodiment of this other way of being a human society. They're carried off into a foreign empire as exiles, as captives. And immediately they begin to console themselves by saying, well, this is only a temporary situation, won't last long, a few months, and we'll be back at it. And the prophet Jeremiah says, oh, no, this is going to be like 70 years. This is going to be several generations. So you got to, build houses and get married and have kids and go on with life. Seek the welfare of Babylon, because in its welfare you'll have your own welfare. And so they did, but they got a little too good at it. And they were reaching the point where they were in danger of losing their Jewish identity as the people of God and just morphing into little Babylonians. And so that's why you get the books of Ezekiel and Daniel calling for them to live in this tension of being a part of the empire but being apart from the empire. And that is tricky, and it's not easy. We got to learn how to be exiles on Main Street, how to live as exiles, and yet we're still responsibly engaged in human society. We're going to be school teachers, and we're going to be, bakers and candlestick makers and whatever else we're going to be, but still apart from the empire. Exiles on Main Street.
How do we nurture, and what are practices to nurture our awareness?
Well, I just have to try to channel Walter Brueggemann here, and you need a counter script, because it's true. I mean, we grow up scripted, and we have no idea we've been scripted. And all of the liturgies of advertising and liturgies of empire, I mean, we don't even. And so that's why we need church and Lord's Prayer and Psalms and liturgy and maybe a sermon now and then. We need some things that can activate an alternative imagination that, wait a minute, maybe the kingdom of Christ really is possible. Maybe in some subtle way it can creep into our real world. Maybe there is some way to live out, thy kingdom come, thy will be done. In a simple little way, but we have to keep those influences, because if you lose those influences, then there's nothing else to form you but the empire. And this is why the empire never likes poets very much, because poets are unwieldy. They can just think. And the empire wants to conscript everything to its own agenda, and poets are the ones that are the best at offering us an alternative imagination. That's why it's helpful for us to understand that the Hebrew prophets were not primarily preachers as we think of it. They weren't activists as we think of it. They were poets. And they simply imagined, wait a minute, things could be other. So, what would it be like if the lion laid down with the lamb? What if the powerful were not exploiting the weak? I mean, what would that look like? And so, but then when the day's done, they say, but it's just a poem anyway. And yet, maybe it's a poem that God breathed on. Maybe we recognize that it's so breathed on that we say, let's like canonize it. Let's make it scripture. Let's recognize that God so breathed on this that if we breathe some of that same air of scripture, maybe we can get intoxicated enough, we can get high enough that we can start seeing some other visions of how life could be. I've never said that before. That was a good one there. Get high.